Hello Internet, and today's video is going to be another book opinion, those videos in which I tell you my opinion on a book. And today's book is going to be Tiger's Daughter by Arsenault Rivera. This was one of my favorite books. It is a book I will reread. It is a book I'll probably reread for the rest of my life. And it is a book that I cannot wait to see what happens in this, because it takes place in a period of time I was always interested in, which is ancient Asia, following the Mongol tribe and what I suspect personally to be an ancient Japanese system. Now, I only say that because some of the weapons mentioned are originated from Japan, and that there's another group of people who I suspect are the Chinese. However, I cannot say for sure, and no one has backed me on this. These are just my deductions. So this follows two girls, two women, and we get from youth to grown adulthood of these two girls. One comes from a Mongol tribe, and she is going to be the successor after her mother has abdicated the tribal horse. I don't know. It's a different culture, so it works differently, but she will be the next chiefess of the Mongol tribe. And another girl who will be the queen, the empress of her people. And these two girls, their fates are tied together. Their mothers were really, really great friends, and so their fates inevitably got tied together by destiny. Outside of their moms just being really great friends, like pine needles dropped on their foreheads, and now it's destined that their fates will be entwined. So this book is written in an interesting perspective. It's written in second perspective for the most part, as a letter from one girl to the other. The Mongol chiefess is writing to her friend, to her lover, a story, reminding the woman of all the times that they had together, of how they grew up, of all of these different things that happened over their lives, and is just pulling back all these memories. And the Empress is reading these letters, remembering all of the times that they had together, all of the trials and tribulations that they went through together. And wow, were there a lot of them. So we start off in the beginning as them as young kids. We figure out how they meet, we figure out their emotions, and it's always very clear that this is just one person telling another person's story and pulling back memories. And I don't know how reliable that is, for the simple fact, like, how can you fully depict what you remember that you did when you were 5? But it is very clear that this is just what this girl is remembering, and she's like, don't you remember when you told you, or I never told you this, or your father mentioned this to me, and that sort of thing. So it seems like it's a genius way of telling a story, and you never once doubt what's going on. There's never a moment in it where you're sort of like, but how would you ever know that? Like, you just trust this girl knows this information, and it happens along such a normal progression that I never once came across that. And I have in other books where it just felt like, I don't know if you would know that, so I don't know how reliable those thoughts are. But in this, perfectly happened. I loved how tough each girl was in their own way, and I love how tough they were together. I like that these characters had faults, and they were like badasses, and sometimes they just made dumb and stupid decisions, but I liked how all of that worked out, and like there were consequences and they had effects, and that these characters could be selfish and self-centered, and that didn't make them bad people. And it was really nice to see, right? It was really nice to see very realistic characters who were full of flaws and who got jealous and felt emotions, but you realize that didn't make them bad people. They weren't bad people because of those actions. They had like good intentions, or like they were doing it for a purpose, and I just liked how that whole thing worked out in the larger realm. I also really liked the demonic element coming in to this, of taking in that idea that Oni existed, and that they were coming back, and that these demon people existed, and that's who these girls were fighting against part of the time. Like, their story was a progression. It was a life story talking about all the different things that happened in these girls' lives, and just bringing back these memories. There was never one villain or one bad guy or one evil. It was like this is what people's lives look like. Things happen, and sometimes there's happiness and sometimes there's not. But I did like that slightly overarching effect of there are darker evils in the world, and sometimes we're going to have to face them because they exist. And I loved the whole thing. I loved how this was just a story about two strong women who were fated to be together, and they were together, and their relationship worked, right? It was like they were made for each other, and they were so vastly different. They complemented each other, even though I personally wouldn't want to be in a relationship with either one of them. Like they're like people with a lot of flaws, but for each other they were perfect, and their relationship worked. And I like seeing it worked, and I like the progression of their story, and like how they came to be who they were. And there's not many books that go as detailed and in that explanation of going from a person's development from like when they're young to when they're older, and just explaining how they became these people that they are, and fully showing you these details and giving you this exploration and this viewing in on people and like the world around them. So I thought that was just magnificent. I was in love. I loved it. I really liked it. So Tiger's Daughter is a really interesting book. I had never read a book in second person that I really loved and enjoyed, but I loved and enjoyed how this was written. It was beautifully written. I loved the point of view that it took and how it told the story. I liked getting that in-depth view of a person's life and how it progressed from child to adult, and just the sort of things that happened that made them the way that they are and how they responded to things. Because sometimes when we read books, it's just we get a few days with a character, right? You only get a couple days. But this, you got a whole lifetime. And that was a lot of fun. So I want to know, what did you guys think about this book? If you read it, what did you think? And do you think there should be more books where it starts from the beginnings of a person's life to the end, so that we can have a deeper exploration of that person? I feel like a lot of readers love that. I mean, a lot of people like Harry Potter, and you get to see this kid from when he's like 11 to when he's 17, and you get to be there for like pretty much all the steps of his life, and you just get really attached and you get to learn a lot. And I think that's why that sticks with so many people even nowadays, is because you grew up with these characters and you watch these characters grow. And I think I would like to see more books where I would get a chance to really get to see these characters and how situations and their environments really affected the person that they came to be over a long span of time, and not just maybe a couple days or a couple months. So if you like what you're seeing here and you want to continue to see more, click all those bunnies down below, and goodbye, internet.